My mother passed away in at the end of 2007. When I was getting ready to come back to the United States and leaving my dad, Benny Kagan, all by himself, which he had not been in 61 years, I said to him, Dad, vanity aside, you cannot hear, and you cannot stay in your apartment by yourself with me 10,000 miles away. And if I call, or when I call, which was daily, you would not be able to hear the phone ring. I cannot have that kind of anxiety. So we were able to get an appointment at the Donny Gordon Clinic. Now remember that this was already December the 21st, and everything in South Africa shuts down for the Christmas vacation. So this was the last day that doctors were actually receiving patients. And off I went with my father to the Donny Gordon Clinic. I was told, with apologies, that my dad would not be able to see the head of the clinic, the professor, because of the massive amount of patients who already had appointments, but they squeezed me in before I left to go back to the United States. And my father was taken in by an incredible lady who was doing some substitute work. And after a short period of time, she let my father out of the hearing room, and I heard her say to the receptionist, "I'm so very sorry, but I am unable to test Mr. Kagan. His hearing is extremely poor, and I am not qualified to be able to give any kind of diagnosis. He needs to be seen by the doctor." And with that, a man in a white coat who I did not recognize came up to the reception, and I heard this receptionist whisper to him about a Mr. Kagan. And I heard him say to her, "Would you please ask Mr. Kagan and his daughter Karen if they would be willing to wait 20 minutes, because I would like to see him myself." And of course, I mean, I was willing to wait the entire day, so long as I knew I could go back to the United States without any worries or concerns. And true to his word, after 20 minutes, Dr. Peter Friedman came out of his room himself, and he said, "Mr. Kagan and Karen, please would you come into my office?" I don't recall ever meeting this man. Nonetheless, we sat down, not in an examination room, but in Professor Friedland's office. And he said to my father, "Mr. Kagan, I need to tell you that I am giving you my word, while I am not able to take care of even examining you or dealing with your health condition now, because all the labs are closed and everything is unavailable. I am giving you and you, Karen, my solemn word that as soon as everything opens in the middle of January, I will personally take care of your dad, of you, Mr. Kagan, like a son would take care of a father. because I need to tell you, Mr. Kagan, who you are to me and what you mean to me. When my brother Richard and I were young boys, and we were really poor. My mother wanted us to have a King David School education. And you, Mr. Kagan, in charge of the scholarships of King David's School, said to my mother, when she came for the appointment to see if she could get us into the school, and she had made a plan that she had X amount of rand set aside to be able to pay towards the education. You immediately said to her, that money that you've got set aside, I want you to promise me that you will use to have hot meals and school lunches for both your children. I don't know if you saw the person who left here before you, but he is paying for your children for full ride scholarship throughout the entire school education. And he said, you know, Mr. Kagan, I never knew your name for a long time, but my mother always used to call you her angel. And so I want you to know, because of you, I am the head of the ENT at the Donny Gordon Clinic, and my brother Richard is the CEO of Netcare. It's because of King David's School that we had such a superb education, where we were taken care of, where we were loved, where the teachers were completely devoted to us and our well-being. And it went way beyond just what we learned in school. And I'm going to ask you an additional favor. I know that you are now by yourself. I'm going to give you my mobile number. I want you to please, whenever you don't have plans, just to call and come to us for Shabbat dinner. And call me for anything at any time, because you, Mr. Kagan, represent the very best of King David's School. You're a mensch beyond words. And that's what I encountered at King David. So when I think about how scholarships changed people's lives, and they really did, and they continue to do that, I would like to respectfully put forward a suggestion in the hope that it will be something that will be realized by our class. It needs to be very specific, because I am very specific about only donating to King David Linksfield. I would like to suggest that we create the King David Linksfield Class of 71 Scholarship, where we provide a full ride scholarship for a deserving student for their entire high school education. The cost of that translates into 50,000 American dollars. And if 50 of us could each donate $100, or if more, if whatever it is you can do, it would mean the world to one child. I'm going to ask and make sure that Raylene and Gila send us a link so that we are able to realize this. And I do want to add that all of this is in honor of our beloved Elliot Wolf, because this man is above and beyond the biggest mensch in the world. And we at King David Linksfield, or PUN 1969, had the greatest privilege of living with and loving with Elliot Wolf. So with that, I have already, from a few people, I have already received a commitment of several $1,000s, and I, of course, will be contributing as well. And I just want to say what an honor and what a privilege it is to be able to look at all your beautiful faces, so many of whom I have not seen in 50 years. Shalom uvracha. And I now call on the person who was my BFF from the time that we were tiny, not the person who was my BFF who lived on Crun Street across the road from me, but in this respect, Rona Siegel, Rona Levenberg.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. I had the weirdest thing happen last night. I went to see a movie called The Good Wife, and it brought back a memory, which I think a few girls will remember. I remember being phoned, I think it was by Karen one evening, to say, tomorrow morning, you all have to wear long pants to school. And there were 6 of us, and I woke up that morning and I thought, no, they're having me on. I'm going to be the only one who arrives in pants. And sure enough, 6 of us wore pants to school, and it was the new school uniform, and the press came and took photographs, and we were the first school. And it seems crazy, but in those days, girls never wore pants to school. So we certainly made history in our little way. And that was always happening at King David. Do have lots of fond memories, but that's just one of them that I wanted to share. We're all well here in New Zealand. We live a wonderful life, and sometimes I have to pinch myself. So lovely to see you all, and go well.
Thank you. Now, who do you pass the baton on to?
Ooh. I'll send it to Jeff, shall I? Because he was my neighbor. I lived at 6 Mayor Street and he lived at 7 Mayor Street. So okay. There you go, Jeff.
Kelly, did you want to do the Australians first? Is that what you wanted to do?
I would love to, if you don't mind.
All right, Warren Kruger from Perth. I lived there for almost a year. You're on, mate.
Hi guys, lovely to see you again. And Leon, wow for those pictures, the biggest wow ever. We're asked to put some funny things that happened to us at school. The only one I can really think of that was major was 1968, 1600 meter race. That's 4 times around the field. And Dolph Horwitz was the favorite. I was the rank outsider. And the gun went off and I just flew like there was no tomorrow. If you ever watched horse racing, you'll know what I'm talking about. And while I was running, I was saying, Roger Bannister, watch out. And the end result is I did come last, but I did finish the race. Then we move on to 1970, the year after we came back from Ulpan. And one of the conditions my parents said I could go on Ulpan is that I've got to get an A for Hebrew, otherwise I need to pay them back. So the first term we wrote a test and I got 68%, which you know is a C. And then I had a godly moment. Thanks to Mrs. Berry, she wrote 68 the Hebrew way and gave me 86. So everything just happened in peace and quiet. Then later that year, in the foyer of the hall, the matrics were starting to write exams and we were all laughing at them. And along came a Mr. Jordan. who said 3 words that stuck with me forever. And those words were, "Môre is vandag." And that was 51 years ago. And how true it was. And I could probably go for an hour of all the funny things that happened at school, but let's give someone else a chance. David Evian, you next.
Thank you, Warren. And I just want to say thank you for your unwavering support for years and years now. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Warren, if I have to pay my parents back for my Hebrew mark, I'd live to 120. Lovely to see you all. I can't express the emotion of seeing these faces, some I haven't seen for 50 years. I've been here in Australia for the last 35 years after moving here from the States. I have 3 kids and 10 grandkids. All my kids are Shomrei Shabbos, which they say I drove them there to save their souls, having lived and been brought up by me as a character. You're talking about connections in schools. Last week, I went with my daughter, who's also an optometrist, to a place out of Sydney where they've set up a multidisciplinary team to work with kids, and I didn't know anybody there. And as I walk in, I see a pediatrician who works there part-time, and her name is Weinbergas Genton. So I guess that she had to be Michael Weinbergas's daughter, and her husband must be Daphne Flax Genton's husband. So the husband must be that. So then I got talking to the manageress, who told me, "Oh, you're South African. I'm very best friends with someone from Herzliya School," just an Aussie non-Jewish lady. So the connections we made through school, our networks here and overseas and everywhere, it's carried us in good stead. And our self-image and our chutzpah came from King David. So I bless you all. Mr. Wolf, thanks for putting up with me. I should have been more grey if I didn't migrate. Love you all, and speak again.
Thanks, David. Who do you pass the baton on to?
Alan Wallace, our daughters are friends here. Alan?
Alan, do you know how to unmute yourself?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I do. Hi, all. I'm pleased you made an issue of us not recognizing each other at the beginning, because I thought possibly there was something wrong with my eyesight. But the people I do recognize are Gerald Kaplan, because we have a weekly Zoom shir together, which was one of the positive outcomes of COVID for me personally. I recognize Dave Evian because Dave, as you say, our daughters who lived in New York together for a few years are friendly, and we met up there a couple of times. And also you, Hilary Hertzberger, because you are the spitting image of your mum, Beryl, as I remember her. And honestly, it just brings me back to the days with in Cyril Dean Observatory when our parents were friendly, my late mom Rona and your mom and a number of other very close friends of hers. We live in Australia. I married my lovely wife Sharon Apple in 1980, and we left shortly after to Switzerland, and then New York, and then to Australia. And our 4 kids were born in Australia, but 3 of them, I didn't drive them only to be Shomer Shabbat, I drove them out of the country. And 3 of them have made Aliyah and live here in Tel Aviv, actually, which is where I am at the moment. We arrived 2 or 3 days ago. It's quite a mission getting out of Australia right now. Getting into Israel is easy by comparison. Anyway, we're here, please God, until after Sukkot. We're expecting, please God, a grandchild any day now. And our youngest daughter, age 24, is getting married here in August. Life in Australia has been good, I think, for all of us. Yitzhak, you're clapping. I remember your chasna. I mentioned it on the WhatsApp group. I was there 1980, 1981. Anyway, life in Australia, thank God, has been good for all of us. What I remember of school, I mentioned on the Google Sheets, Form 1C, it was really a standout for me. I think a standout for a few of the teachers as well. But one of the better things I remember about it, or the not naughty things, was playing soccer outside the prefab of 1C. Alan Jankelowitz was my partner, and there, I think it's the only time I ever took the early morning bus to school, you know, because I was so keen to get there to play soccer before school started. And we played at break, and we played every spare moment we had. I also do remember the admin block. The picture we saw made it even clearer in my mind. And I remember standing outside Mr. Sandler's office waiting to be caned on numerous occasions. I remember his stern look. I remember that bit of fear, but also the excitement about getting another stripe on the back of my tie afterwards, or 2 or 3 or maybe 6. And I remember running out and down the stairs, sometimes into the ablution block to sit in the basin and cool off the backside. I remember the quizzes, Stanley Gordon. I haven't seen you since then. And there were 5. I can't remember exactly who it was. I think John Freeman was one, yourself and me, and I don't remember who the other 2 were. But those are the good memories. I'm likewise so grateful for the education we received over there, for the friendships we've made. We've all moved on, but we have a connection that will never leave us. And it's been lovely catching up with you all. I somehow missed the 40th completely, but thankfully made it up with this one. Thank you all. I'll pass it on to Honolulu. Who is in Honolulu? Because I think that you are even later than Australia.
Well, hi, everybody, and thank you very much, Alan. It's good to see everybody. Thank you for the, I really, it's not that late for me because for California, of course, it's 4 a.m. going onwards. So I guess it's all relative. Really nice to see everybody. I won't take up everybody's time, but it's interesting with you being 1 o'clock, your time in South Africa is 1 o'clock in the morning for me. I really wasn't intending going to King David. In fact, up until 2 days before the first day of Form 1, I was registered to go to King Edward's. My whole family, my father, my brothers, my uncle, everybody all went to King Edward's, and I was destined to go there without question. My parents went and attended a bar mitzvah the weekend before we started school, and one of the people at the table said, you know, you really should send your son to a Jewish day school. And there it came about, and the very next day I had to borrow uniforms because government schools used to begin on a Tuesday, and King David always used to begin on a Monday. So my mom said, go and try it out for 1 day, and I guess the rest is history. One last thing is just, it's so lovely hearing South African accents, because nowhere around me here in Honolulu do I hear South African accents. So it's just deja vu. All the very best. Nice to see everybody, and good luck. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Leon. And really, till 120, everybody. Be healthy.
Please call
Thank you
us
so much.
Franco.
Sorry, Karen?
Please call on Robbie Franco.
Yeah, I'm here, and what an absolute joy to see everyone's faces. I wish I could spend the rest of the week just catching up with so many people. So there's a certain level of frustration. I moved from South Africa after uni, spent 25 years in Israel, where our 3 boys were born. And then we moved to New Zealand for 6 years, and we've been in Australia for 11 years. And I think what I have on an evening like this is deep gratitude for the privilege that we had going to the school. There are so many fine people around the world who've come out of King David. And on every level, the teachers, our fellow students, the people who worked in the school. I think the biggest impact on me in terms of my schooling was Ulpan. It changed my life. And there are many stories coming out of Ulpan. But a magnificent experience. I'd just like to quote, because I think that to me is the essence of my experience at King David, by Maya Angelou, who said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." So to everyone who made anyone else, and certainly myself, feel so good so often, and Elliot, I turn to you. I've had the privilege of being in touch over all these years, even though it hasn't been every month, every year, but there's a very solid connection there. I had the privilege of being in touch with June Barclay right until almost when she passed away. When we lived in New Zealand, we saw her a lot, and true to her form, June would write out tables for our 3 boys to learn their arithmetic.
It's been close to 43 years since I have heard anybody call me Karen. Even in South Africa, Raylene, my name was Karen. And nonetheless, I want to thank you, Leon. I was so deeply moved by your video.